Thursday, 7:59 a.m. Lobby. Evergreen Global HQ. The elevator doors opened with a sterile ding, like it was announcing a moment I'd been rehearsing for years. I stepped in, heels clicking sharply against marble. Third floor. Executive wing. I wasn't expecting to see her. Not today. Not after what happened last quarter. She was already inside, Allison Ford, back turned, pretending to scroll through emails, the way people do when they don't want to acknowledge someone they recognize. I froze for half a second, then stepped in. Back straight. Chin high. She glanced up, then back to her phone. A brief flicker of recognition, maybe even guilt, passed across her face, but it vanished just as fast. The silence stretched. A decade's worth of tension hung between us. Then she said it. Oh. Measured. Poison-tipped. So they're really making you head of strategy? I didn't answer. Not at first. I watched the numbers above the elevator door, 2 then 3, and turned slowly. Yes, I said. Surprised. She didn't smile. Didn't frown either. Just pressed her lips together like she was holding something in. You used to cry when someone raised their voice in class. I tilted my head. You used to scream when you didn't get your way. Guess we've both grown. The elevator dinged again. Third floor. She stepped out first. I let her walk ahead like I didn't care. But I did. Because I remembered everything. The locker prank. The fake notes. The accidental exclusions. The time I begged her to stop. And the way she smiled like it was a game. She didn't know I'd kept the receipts. But she was about to find out. 12 years earlier, Brighton High School senior year. Fall semester. I was 17 when I first learned what it meant to disappear while still standing in a room. It was the Monday after homecoming. The hallways still smelled like hairspray and leftover glitter, and the remnants of forgotten streamers clung to the corners of the lockers. I stood at locker 218, hands trembling as I spun the dial. Combination 1234-6. And then the smell hit me. Rotten lunch meat. Mayonnaise. Something sticky, cola maybe? And glitter. Always glitter. My books, folders, and jacket were ruined. A Tupperware full of tuna salad, clearly left over the weekend, was smashed inside, leaking onto everything I owned. People around me didn't laugh. That was the worst part. They just... then turned away. I was nobody. Not worth mocking. Not worth saving either. I heard her before I saw her. That voice. Too loud. Too perfect. Oh my God, did someone seriously do that? Big shock. Beneath it, I could hear the glee trying to stay hidden. Allison Ford. Golden ponytail, designer backpack, perfect white teeth that hid venom. She was standing at her locker across the hall, surrounded by a squad of girls who mirrored her every move like synchronized dancers. And they were all watching me. I wanted to run. Instead, I stood there and did the one thing that made them lose interest. I cleaned it up. In silence. No tears. No screaming. No notes to the principal. I knew better. Lunchtime. The quad. I sat behind the bleachers that day, peanut butter sandwich in one hand, math homework in the other. Blown like always. There was a time when Allison and I weren't strangers. In middle school, we'd done science projects together, spent Saturdays at each other's houses watching Disney Channel marathons, eating Oreos and laughing about nothing. Then high school happened. She got shinier. I got quieter. And by junior year I was invisible. By senior year I was just a target. One afternoon she passed me in the hallway and said, "You're brave, walking around with a face like that." Her friends burst into laughter. I blinked, swallowed, walked away. I wasn't brave. I was just surviving. But I remembered it all. I remembered everything. Guidance office 2 weeks later. "I think you should try joining a club," Ms. Reyes had said gently, her cardigan sleeves too long, her smile just a little too forced. "A club?" I asked. "Yes. Yearbook maybe. Or drama. You've got great grades, Julia. You need community." I looked at her and wanted to say, "There is no community for people like me. There's just escape routes." Instead I nodded and lied. "I'll think about it." What I really thought about. Graduation. Freedom. Getting far enough away that people like Allison Ford would only exist in nightmares, not real life. College. 4 years later she faded for a while. I moved to Chicago, studied design strategy, learned how to be the smartest woman in the room without needing to say the most. I worked 2 jobs. Lived in a studio apartment that was basically a closet with a stove. But it was mine. My name on the lease. My rules. My walls. And I started to build something from scratch. She had faded. Until she didn't. Until the day her name showed up, Allison Ford, in the email thread for Evergreen Global's product expansion team. Same city. Same company. Different floors. At first I thought it was a cruel joke. But then, I smiled. As I was no longer 17. And I wasn't the girl with tuna in her locker. I was Julia Amaze. And the next time she laughed behind my back, I'd make sure her career ended in front of me. Tuesday 9:16 a.m. Evergreen Global HQ. Executive boardroom. The city was still waking up when I got the email. Subject line: Internal appointment, Strategic Growth Division, from Linda Cho, Senior VP. My stomach flipped before I even opened it. There had been rumors for weeks. Restructuring. Departures. Promotions. But I hadn't dared to imagine myself in the conversation. Not yet. I clicked. We're pleased to inform you that effective immediately, Julia Amaze is appointed Interim Director of Strategic Growth, reporting directly to EVP Michael Langston. A formal announcement will follow this afternoon. For a full 5 seconds I thought it was a mistake. My coffee trembled in my hand. Then I saw the CC list. Allison Ford. Her name right below mine. Alphabetical irony. I didn't smile. Not yet. I closed the email and stared out the glass window that overlooked downtown. Taxis and commuters, cranes and construction. Everyone building something. Everyone climbing. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking up at someone else's office. They were looking up at mine. Tuesday 1:42 p.m. Team Town Hall, 12th floor conference center. They announced it formally during a town hall. Michael Langston stood at the front, mic in hand, his silver tie just crooked enough to look human. Let's give a warm congratulations to Julia Amaze, he said, who'll be leading our strategic growth team through this critical phase. Her ideas and precision have already made waves in the background. Now we're bringing her to the front. There was polite applause. Some genuine. Some forced. Allison sat 2 rows back. No clapping. Just clenching. I could feel her glare burning holes in my blazer. Wednesday 8:03 a.m. elevator ride. Again I saw her before she saw me this time. Hair straightened within an inch of its life. Blouse tucked in just a little too sharply. She hadn't slept. I could tell. The doors slid shut. Just the two of us. She turned. Congrats, she said flatly. Thanks, I replied, matching her tone. Beat. Didn't know you were even in the running. Neither did I said. Pause. Then smiled. But apparently I was always in the room. The elevator dinged. He stepped out quickly. I stayed a second longer. Let the doors close again. I needed a moment. To breathe in the shift. This wasn't high school. This was the boardroom. And I was no longer applying to be accepted. I was running the damn table. Thursday, 10:31 a.m. Slack message. Allison, Julia, hey, just wanted to connect when you have a moment. Quick sync on OKRs. Translation: I want to know what you know. I didn't reply immediately. Let her wait. Made her wonder. Then finally, sure. 3 p.m. My office. Short. Direct. Power in plain font. 3:01 p.m. Julia's office. She stepped in like she owned the place. Old habits die hard. Thanks for the time, she said, smoothing her skirt as she sat. No notes. No laptop. Just a fake smile and perfectly crossed legs. I didn't offer coffee. Or water. You had questions? She blinked. More like. I wanted to understand the shift. I mean, you're great obviously, but it's a big role. I tilted my head slightly. You think I'm not ready? She hesitated. Just for a second. But I caught it. Like blood and water. No, of course not. Just. Surprised. That's all. I leaned back. Surprise is good. Keeps people sharp. He forced a laugh. Then changed the subject. Anyway. I know you'll be relying on all of us. I'm happy to support. Just tell me what you need. I smiled. What I need is accuracy. Alignment. And fewer back-channel threads. Pause. You can help with that. Her throat bobbed. A swallow. He knew. He just didn't know how much I knew. Yet. Later that night, 11:45 p.m. I sat in bed scrolling through my old backup drives. Senior year photos. Emails. Screenshots. Everything I'd buried. Was still here. Every joke at my expense. Every anonymous post I'd traced back to her IP. Every fake, secret admirer note slipped into my locker. I wasn't collecting evidence anymore. I was preparing a strategy. This wasn't revenge for high school. This was justice. In HD. And the clock had just started ticking. Monday, 9:02 a.m. Strategic Growth Team Weekly Sync. Let's begin, I said. The room quieted, screens lit up, and heads turned toward the flat screen at the front of the glass conference room. It was my first official meeting leading the Strategic Growth Division. And I made a choice: no chairs at the head of the table. I sat in the middle. Quiet. Present. Allison sat 2 seats down to my left. I didn't look at her. Not even once. We'll start with quarterly projections. Paul, you're up. He clicked to slide 1. Growth targets. Market analysis. Confidence metrics. I let him speak. But I watched her. The tapping of her pen. The tightness in her jaw. She was waiting for her moment to jump in. She didn't get one. Thanks, Paul. Next, Jill on new market segments. Allison leaned forward slightly, ready to insert herself. And finally, updates on the AI pilot rollout. I clicked to the next slide myself. The one I had written. Not shared beforehand. Allison blinked. Her name wasn't on the slide. Mine was. I personally reviewed the UI mockups and proposed customer workflows. I'll be presenting that directly to Langston this Friday. Someone raised an eyebrow. Another nodded. But Allison? She froze. Because she'd been leading that task. Or thought she had. Tuesday, 2:41 p.m. kitchenette 12th floor. She cornered me while I was refilling my tea. Hey, she said too casually. Just curious, did you reassign the AI rollout stuff to yourself? I smiled faintly. Nope. I just didn't need to reassign what was never officially assigned. A beat. Her mask cracked for a second. Right. It's just I've been leading those calls for months. I stirred my tea, then met her eyes. And yet none of the progress was documented. Or aligned with exec timelines. Boom. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I turned to leave. Paused. Back. Documentation is power, Allison. I assumed you of all people would know that. Wednesday internal memo 6:13 p.m. Subject. Revised leadership contact chain Q4 initiatives. I sent it just before heading home. A clean, subtle reorg. No major changes. Except for one. Allison's name was moved 2 lines down. From core strategy lead to contributor. Not publicly demoted, just quietly displaced. No announcement. No justification. Just structure. By Thursday morning, 3 people had messaged to ask what had changed. I answered the same way, just aligning roles to performance clarity. They nodded. Smiled. Understood. Because clarity like power is best served cold. Thursday 4:09 p.m. Slack message. Allison, Julia, hey. Not sure what's going on, but can we chat soon? I let it sit. Read receipt on. No reply. Friday 8:26 a.m. Executive presentation. I stood at the head of the long table this time. Only me. Michael Langston sat directly across. I presented the pilot program, my market entry strategy, and a 3-tiered pricing rollout. Allison sat near the door. Note-taking. No eye contact. Langston clapped softly at the end. Tight work, he said. Vision and control. Just what we need right now. He looked at me. Not past me. Not over me. At me. Allison didn't even stay for the coffee afterward. Later that evening, 10:18 p.m. my apartment. I opened my old journal. The one with coffee stains and cracked leather binding. March 17, 2011. They said I was too soft. June 4, 2012. She laughed when I cried. October 28, 2014. I stopped expecting apologies. And then a new entry. October 11, 2025. She still doesn't know I've already started the real plan. Monday, 11:58 a.m. Evergreen Global All Hands Meeting, virtual Zoom call. Okay everyone, we're about to kick off in 2 minutes. The HR manager chirped over Zoom, her smile tight with pre-meeting stress. Over 60 employees were already logged in. Cameras on. Mics off. The little squares lit up like pixels in a corporate mosaic. This was a quarterly alignment session, one of those meetings where execs speak in polished bullets and managers pretend they're not reading off a Notion doc. But this time I'd made a request. One simple shift. Let's allow each team to present their own learnings instead of just leadership summarizing. More voices. More accountability. Langston agreed immediately. Great idea, Julia. Make it happen. What I didn't tell anyone. Allison would be first. 12:03 p.m., the spotlight, hey, the host said. Up first, the AI pilot findings from Q3. Allison Ford, over to you. Allison's face popped up full screen. She looked ready. Lip gloss perfect. Slide deck open. Fake ease practiced. Thanks, everyone, she began. As many of you know, the AI pilot was a key Q3 initiative. I'll walk you through our team's findings, implementation challenges, and results. She clicked to slide 1. Then slide 2. On slide 3. Her screen froze. No one spoke. She clicked again. Nothing happened. Then, the deck booted her out of presenter mode entirely. And what replaced it? My deck. My file name. My visual style. My insights time-stamped and filed to the shared drive 2 days earlier. At first she was confused. Then horrified. She scrambled. Oh, sorry everyone. There seems to be an issue. I unmuted. No issue, Allison, I said calmly. The file you attempted to present wasn't reviewed or approved for this session. The deck I submitted last night reflects the final verified data, team feedback, and exec input. Beat. Please proceed using the current version. The silence on Zoom was deafening. Even through pixels, I could feel the mortification washing over her. She blinked at the camera, lips slightly parted, then nodded. Hey, yes. Sure. 12:14 p.m. The questions after the presentation, Langston spoke up. Thanks, Julia and Allison, for the overview. Pause. One question though, was there a reason some of this data wasn't surfaced earlier? I'm seeing some inconsistencies between this and the last internal memo. Allison flinched. I jumped in. Yes, I flagged that during final review. Some early assumptions were inaccurate due to misaligned metrics. I corrected them before submission. He nodded slowly. Good catch. Glad we caught it here and not with the board. Allison shrunk back into her screen. Later that afternoon. Slack, Allison, Julia, you undermined me. That was personal. I didn't reply. Wednesday, 4:39 p.m. bathroom mirror. Ground floor, I caught her in the mirror, alone, leaning against the sink like she couldn't breathe. I didn't say anything. Just washed my hands. But before I walked out, I met her eyes in the reflection. She whispered, "You're trying to ruin me." I replied without blinking, "No, Allison. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone sees it now." Thursday, internal whisper network, HR heard. Marketing heard. Even people from sales started DMing me. That was brutal but so overdue. She had it coming. She did that locker thing to my sister's best friend in high school. You know that. I didn't respond. I just let the wave spread. I wasn't making stories. I was just holding up mirrors and watching people see themselves in them for the first time. Friday, 6:11 p.m. Personal notes, Objective 1. Public undermining without explicit aggression. Completed. Objective 2. Shift internal perception from former victim to present authority. In progress. Objective 3. Emotional destabilization of subject. Objective 4. Retain moral high ground. Ongoing. Is the game? It had only just begun. 11 years ago, Brighton High, South Hallway, Friday, 3:08 p.m. The bell rang. Lockers slammed. Backpack sipped. The sound of sneakers and gum-smacking laughter filled the air like static. I waited. I always did. I waited for the hallway to empty just enough that my presence wouldn't invite attention, just enough to become background noise. Locker 218. Combination, 1234-6. Click. But the lock wouldn't open. It was jammed. That's when I saw it. On the door. In thick black Sharpie. Big, bold, all caps. Slut storage, open with caution. My heart sank. The hallway wasn't empty enough after all. Someone laughed. Then 2 more joined in. I looked down. My locker had been taped shut, clear packing tape wrapped around it like a crime scene. Sticky notes were plastered all over it. Do not touch, decontaminated. Trash goes here, hope your fake crush finds out, smiley face. My breath hitched. My knees buckled slightly. But I stood still. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't cry. I heard her voice from behind me. Well, that's so gross. Karen Woods. Allison's shadow. Then came Allison's voice. Fake sweet. Dangerous. Someone should tell the janitor. Or the health department. Laughter. Louder now. More people had stopped. Phones were out. Cameras were rolling. My hands were shaking as I tried to peel the tape off. It wouldn't budge. They just watched me. They watched me struggle. No one helped. And when I finally ripped enough of the tape to open the door, a cloud of baby powder exploded in my face. And beneath it, rotten bananas, wet tampons, a torn bra, a printout of a message I had once written to a school therapist, confidential, but somehow, there. I couldn't breathe. I dropped my binder. It hit the floor with a hollow thud, pages scattering like fallen leaves. Someone snapped a photo. Principal's office, 5:24 p.m. I sat on a plastic chair that squeaked every time I moved. My hoodie sleeves were soaked with tears. Eyes burning. Throat raw. Hands clenched so tightly, my nails left half-moon indents in my palms. The door opened. Miss Tanner walked in, principal of the school. Flanked by Allison and her mom. Allison was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "We're so sorry," her mom said first. But Allison had nothing to do with this. Tanner nodded. "We don't have any direct evidence connecting her to the incident." My voice cracked for the first time. "They used my private file." Tanner gave me a pained look. "We'll investigate. But we need to be careful with accusations. You understand, Julia?" I laughed. A small, bitter sound. The kind that doesn't sound like a laugh at all. Of course they'd protect her. She was blonde. He was pretty. Her mom was in the PTA. I was a quiet scholarship kid with one friend and a GPA that made me invisible. So I stopped fighting. I nodded. I signed the incident acknowledgement form. I left the school through the back entrance. And I never came back the same. Present day, Julia's apartment. Midnight. I closed the leather journal softly. The final page now held my truth. They tried to silence me when I was 17. I let them. But I was never really gone. I was learning. Calculating. Growing teeth beneath soft skin. I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. Allison thought the humiliation today was spontaneous. She didn't know it had started 11 years ago. She didn't know she was still playing a game I'd outgrown. But she'd find out. Because this wasn't revenge for one locker. This was justice for every silent girl who cleaned up her own humiliation while others laughed. 1 week later, office cafeteria, Evergreen Global. Allison sat alone. No more squad. No more whispering. She scrolled through her phone slowly, like she was hoping someone had texted her. No one had. And I walked past her with my team. I didn't gloat. Didn't smirk. I just existed. Loudly. Fully. Without apology. For the first time in years. I didn't feel like the girl they had erased. I was the woman who had rewritten the story.